You are a B2B service-based business owner and you are looking to gain more clients, create more impact, and more revenue in your business. Tune in to Amplify Your Marketing Message with Christine Campbell-Rappin. Every week, we're going to take you through how to build an audience of buyers, mastering your marketing message, and making offers that convert consistently. We'll see you all on the inside. Welcome back, everybody. I am so excited to introduce you to somebody today who is going to help us kick some butt and to really own and create our own economy so that we can amplify our message, create an amazing business, and do it our way. Guys, I want to introduce you to our guest today. This is Dr. Emily Letran. She and I met several months ago, and I thought, wow, what a powerhouse. I've got to have her having a conversation with us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Christine. It's such an honor. And thank you for creating this platform so we can share our stories, our wins, our strategies with all the listeners.
Absolutely. This is the interesting thing about you. You have a remarkable story, both as a human being. You are a very well-known speaker. You're a dentist still by trade, and you have chosen to play in the world of entrepreneurship. How did you get here first off? And how did you create your own economy and a really fun business? Because I see you traveling, living the life, and really creating great impact.
Well, thank you so much. I think sometimes, well, I think it might have to do with me being older, right? Sometimes you just say, okay, that's the way that God is showing you, and let's just go that way. So I originally came from Vietnam to the US as a refugee back in 1981. And just as any immigrant refugee, you overcome challenges and you receive help, right? And then you start looking at, okay, who's helping you? And read books. So from the very beginning, when I started my journey as a dentist, and I'm still a dentist, by the way, I'm very proud to practice with my daughter, who graduated from UCLA, the same school, 30 years after her mom.
Very cool.
It only took some, hints over the 28 years
Just a
for her
few.
to finally say, I think I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna do this. But in any case, I think I've been very blessed because I remember reading that first book, or at least from what I remember, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins.
Mhm.
And then I went and I read the reference list, right? So Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then life just showed me the way to be part of some of these great influencers or leaders. And then I start learning more about business. And in that past, I learning about marketing and understanding that, marketing is all about you, meaning what kind of value do you bring? How are you different from other people? Because as you know, a lot of time in marketing, people just make everything a commodity. Let's say you're a speaker, I'm a speaker. Okay, your fee is this, my fee is that. So we exactly the same, quote unquote, right? I'm a dentist. The other person's a dentist. We both in the same zip code, town, village, whatever it is. So how are we different? And so one of the thing I learned, being a minority, being a woman, I still remember 30 some years ago, when I saw my first dental patient, the patient looked at me and said, "Did you go to school here?" Right? And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, "Did you Google? Did you look up the website?" Because it said UCLA, right? So these are the little things that at the beginning you think, okay, this is not good because people are looking at me a certain way. And then as you go along, you go, wait a minute, people are looking at me a different way. That's what I want people. Now that's how I want people to look at me, right? And I think a lot of us business owners, we all have that story. We all have that specific thing that is unique to us.
Mhm.
And it's about creating that persona, if you want to think about it, uh, how people look at you, what kind of values you represent, and then putting yourself in front of the right people. That's why I say it's your economy. Then that's how you can grow faster. For example, if you are a speaker, a coach, and you teach marketing, if I put you in front of teachers, well, that doesn't do any good because they are employees, right? And they are not that. They're not looking for that. So sometimes I think people are trying to appeal to maybe the wrong crowd, or sometimes it's the wrong message that should be changed. And if you, as much as you could control that, I believe you control your own economy.
I love this so much because I always remind everybody visibility is one thing. If our goal is business owners to find clients, not all visibility is equal.
Right.
Being in the wrong room with either somebody who has no interest, i.e., a teacher, and you're selling a marketing program, if they cannot afford you or are prepared to earn invest, or any number of incongruencies, the
Yes.
longer you stay there, the more likely you will be on life support. And I always say to people, are you in the right room? And
Right.
everyone looks at me and goes, that feels like I just got called out. And I said, okay, well, that's your judgment of yourself. I did not
Uh-huh.
judge you. Let me ask you again, are you in the right room? And they're like, no. And I said, well, then it's time to move. And
Right.
move, you would say boldly. And I love that you talk about this because I think this is so also interesting. We start by saying, I don't want to be looked at. And my differences are not a comfortable wardrobe. And it is the key to being recognized, to finding your people. And we do step into this because there's a lot of talk about authenticity. And it is the most elusive lived experience, I think, especially in the world of AI, that I observe.
Uh-huh.
So, for you, when you're working with people and when you were building your journey, how do you first step into building that comfortable wardrobe of what makes you you, and how do you amplify it to create bigger ripples?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And let me tell you, I give all the credits to my coaches and my mentors and the consultants that I work with. Because, like we mentioned earlier, I came to the US as a refugee. Excuse me. I don't know the language, I don't know the culture. So, how did I get to director of Los Angeles Tribune Global Journals, right? That's a journey, and you can't figure it out by yourself. You got somebody to help you. So, the
Mhm.
very first thing I want to say is, if you want to grow and grow fast, grow in a particular way, please get somebody to hold your hand, be your sounding board, right? Now, to your point, and I just remember the story a couple of weeks ago. I used to, when I share my personal story, I would cry, right? Because it's a personal story and you're talking about the past and all that. And I remember the beginning, every time I talk about it, I cry. So one time, my friend, he was running a mastermind that I'm a part of. He goes, "One of these days, you will know when to cry." You know?
You're like, I
and
hope I get to that day soon.
and a couple of years later, I remember I was on stage and I was talking about myself, and I pulled some tears, and and then later on, somebody come to me and say, "How did you just kind of start crying like that?" and and it's not a performance. It's actually when you get to that point where you go, okay, I really need to show some emotion here, and you have the skill to bring that out, right? It's not like, oh, I got to perform now, and then I go back to whatever myself is. So I think a lot of it, when you want to grow in business, you have to do that personal growth, which is why I'm so passionate about being a high performance coach. Because when you're coaching people, somebody like yourself who teach them marketing, right? You could give them all the copy, or they can get all the copy from AI. I don't really care where they get the copy from, right? Have the best design, but who are you really, right? AI can make you look real good, or a marketer can build you up a certain way. But when people actually deal with you, are you ready to step up, right, into that spotlight that you say you want? If people in my town say, "Hey, I like to go to Emily's office," and I tell people all the time, I have patients who've been with me for 26 years, and I guarantee they're not with me because of my dentistry. Okay. Especially when I have associates, doctors who
Yeah.
work there, right? They come to the office because of the values we deliver. And I remember these very casual comment, "Hey, Dr. Emily, I like you because you tell things like it is. Hey, Dr. Emily, I like you because you're in and out." and I think they meant efficient. But my but my point is that's me, and I need to be comfortable with that, right? And if that's not you, so let's just say you come out to speak and you're very strong and everything, and then you go, oh, but people like the empathetic person, maybe I need to be a little bit of that. And after a while, you go, and I like the word that you say, incongruence. In our world, we tend to say, a misalignment, right? Whatever you are, you're not aligning with your own self and with the value you believe and with what you're teaching. And so when people want to go to that next step and create that economy, I want them to really work on themselves. And then beyond that, they got to kind of work on their team, because you cannot be this way and then your team is that way, right? And people come in and they go, well, I thought you guys do this. And but she said this. And it's the attitude, it's the tone, it's the message, it's how you appear. Um, I like to, a lot of people tell me I'm very serious. And I go, okay, fine. When you talk to me, obviously, we crack some laughs, right? And then I'm very sarcastic, which I proudly represent. So if you can't take that humor, if you can't take that sarcasm, even for my dental patients, well, that's not a match. And the best thing to do is, okay, we're not a match. And, I think you should find another dentist. I think you should talk to another consultant. Because if you're working with me, this is what I expect you to do for yourself. And that part of it is also being bold, right? Magnetic marketing, which is taught by Dan Kennedy, and I'm very proud to brag that I'm his one of his private clients, right? Which is to attract the right people and actually to repel the people who don't match, not serving them half-assedly, just tell them, no, this is not working. Go, please go work with XYZ, another person who I know would work well with this.
Yes.
And that's the boldness part. And I think when people are not bold, like first they don't know exactly who they are in terms of values, and then they're not bold enough to represent that, and then they're not bold enough to say, okay, we are not a match. I can't do this for you. That's where the stress come in. Because people, a lot of time when people say they stress, it's not because they're doing 10 things. It like five of those things are not their skills, and they get stressed over it. And so that's how I see it. And do you see it the same way?
I do. And I think what's so interesting is when we start the journey, it's the same thing, right? When I start the journey, I'm uncomfortable in my wardrobe. I'm uncomfortable in being seen. And the transition has to be step boldly into it. And when people come and work with us, one of the first questions I ask is a very simple one. And it is like deer in the headlights. It's like, who are you and what's your true north? And you use the word values. So we have to get clear on who we are. And that is not something you get in a journal at 2 o'clock because you decided it was like scheduled clarity time. It is
Mm-hmm.
through conversation, it is through lived experience, it's through the misalignment and really the artificial stresses we're creating. Because once you're clear on your true north, it is magnetic. Our business is called Clear Acceleration, and I hear it time and time again. One of the things we love about you, love me or hate me, is your clarity. And I said,
Right.
we've spent a lot of time thinking about what is our opinion? Who do we represent? What is our true north? What are our values? And we do want people to step boldly forward and say, I am ready to run, or I am not. I said, I think that that very important distinction is to be celebrated. And as you start to tell your story, you have partnered with great people. And I love that you talk about people who've influenced and held your hand. How do you establish authority in the eyes of others?
I think the very first thing, and again, it has to do with your values, is you have to do the work. you know, people
Thank
talk,
you, thank
people
you, thank
talk
you.
about, people talk about
Can't
imposter.
skip that.
People talk about imposter syndrome, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't think I've ever had that before. I know I tell myself I'm not ready, on this stage, or I was scared to death the first time I talked to Sharon Lecter. I was freaking out with the first time I was on the phone personally with Dan Kennedy. I'm just like, okay, because these are the people you follow, you study, you learn, but you have never really, have a one-on-one conversation about you, right? Like, hey, I want to work with you, that kind of a thing. So I think for a lot of us, the like you say, having that clarity. Um, so let's say I say, okay, I want to work with Christine, just for example. Christine's my influencer. I want to work with Christine. First is I got to do the work, meaning I got to have a business. I really think I should study some marketing before before talking to you. And then when I approach you, I need to know what is it that you can bring, right? Like what is the expertise that you're seeking. And then when I start working with you, what people are looking at is, hey, Emily's working with an expert, with a marketing expert. So usually those experts, they don't just take people on randomly, right? That's why the power of association is so special, right? And then after that, I for me, those people are role models. I like how they talk. I like what they teach. I have my own thing, but I'm gonna follow what they do. Like maybe they speaking with that group, maybe I want to speak with that group. Because at the beginning, a lot of us we don't, we may be very clear in who we are and what we do, but we like, why reinvent the wheel? Why try to figure out who to talk to? I was talking to one of my client, and she works in the nursing industry, and she wants to teach the nurses how to control stress, right? Like wellness, and so she was saying, well, I need to find some sponsor for this event that I'm doing, my first event. And I said, well, who speak to nurses, right? Because if you immediately go to the people that the nurses trust, right, that their brand, and they
Wow.
come in as your sponsor, all of a sudden it builds a credibility. Hey, she's working with, I don't know, I mean, I don't know what the brand is, but when you start look being associated with those particular, I just call them logos, right?
Mhm.
Because they come in, they have to trust you to come in and support you, right? If you're talking about your mentor, and that's this is an influencer, that mentor has watched you grow to give you an endorsement, a testimonial, whatever it is, even casually talking about you, right? And that's where you, to me, it's easier to get started that way,
This is
instead
smart
of let
strategy.
me just do this thing all by myself. And the next thing I just want to say real quick is, as speakers, sometimes people tell me, well, I don't know where to go speak, right? I people are not inviting me. People, I don't know, people don't know me. Hey, you want to be bold? Just do your own thing, create your own stage. I know it's hard. I know you may have 5 people, you may have 20 people. It doesn't matter. It start with one, and whatever you comfortable with. If you're comfortable on camera like this, just do a podcast or do a Facebook Live. Those are all stages, and we are so blessed nowadays to be able to have a lot of these access to these stages, and it doesn't cost us a lot of money. It costs the time, and time is money. So when you work with the right person and you leverage what is your talent to the right platform, the right media, I think you can accelerate really fast.
You can. And what I love, one of my most favorite mantras, it's one we've been talking a lot about this year, is get off zero. The lived experience is how you step into boldness. It is how you associate and say, I am going to get into that room. And for sure, I had the funniest thing happen this week. I was invited to speak in somebody's private mastermind, and a good friend had said, could you help us specifically talk about finding clients through speaking, because a lot of people want to speak to sell. And I said, okay, well, what do you do after the talk? and
Right.
and that was what I was brought in to talk about. There was a person in this room who I have known for years. She was my very first podcast guest on this show. And I said, it was a hot mess. I didn't know what I was doing. I hadn't created the rhythm yet. And yes, I would love to go re-record it, but I don't. I show it as the journey. And I said, go back and watch that, because many years later now I said, this is what we've created, starting from the first step. It's everything. And I'd love to ask you the one question I ask everybody, this to prove a point, and because it shows the diversity that you get to build your business the way you want. You get to find leaders that inspire you. You get to own the identity that you choose, and all the things that is your experience is what your audience need to hear in the journey. And it is this: how do you right now find your next moment of impact? What are you doing that's effective to say, I'm creating opportunities and I love it because it feels like my way.
Yes. So I just had this aha moment a couple of months ago, and I look at all of the connections that I made and all the opportunities that are brought to me, and it comes from me speaking. And my first coach would laugh and tell you that I fought him, what is it called? Tooth and nail, right? Like, I am not a speaker. He would bring me on stage and try to interview me, and I would find the shortest answer possible. He would say, blah, 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 blah. So, what do you think, Dr. Letran? And I would say, I agree. I would just find the shortest one because I said, why am I on stage? I'm a dentist. Yes, I wrote my first book because I wanted to share my story out of frustration. Because somebody was saying something to me, and I go, you know what? If they only know my past, right? How hard I got here, they wouldn't have made that statement. And that's what inspired me to write the book. But from that very first time, and with all the speakings that I do, like there are people who are inviting me in to be a founding member of some big thing, and they've never met me. They know me as a speaker. I don't even know if they heard me speak, but on social media they can see how I associate with people and connect with people and promote different people. So I say the most effective way is to leverage your talent and do whatever the one thing is that I think is the strongest thing for you. What I mean by that is for me now I'm looking back and I say, you know what, I'm going to tell all my clients they need to be speakers. Period. I think the next best thing is you need to be a writer. Um, I love to write. I used to write for the Vietnamese Student Association back in college days. Then I would write little short stories myself in Vietnamese. And then when I had the opportunity to write for the Los Angeles Tribune Journal, I started there. And now I'm the director of all the global journals. It's because I like to write. I think it's it really can show you, right? Because when you're speaking, sometimes when you're nervous, you may have missed an opportunity. But when you write, because you get to reread it and say, okay, no, I want to say it this way, it really show your personality, right? And I think if you can find whatever it is that is your strength and just leverage that so people know you for that, for those ideas on that platform, I think you're going to see opportunities coming to you. Now, I think you should be omnipotent, you should be everywhere, but usually people know you for one thing, right? People know my backstory. I would meet people many years later and they would say, dentist, right? And I said, and speaker, right? But it's okay. They remember you. And I would be in conversation because obviously I'm not out speaking about dentistry to the world. That would only be to the dentistry niche. But people will know you because you're out there, you're sharing your story and you're sharing your passion. And maybe you're teaching one or two things, or maybe sometimes you're just sharing, but that is a message that somebody needs to hear. So I would say most effectively, learn to be a speaker.
I love that. And I know that people are terrified of speaking. It is, we know, naturally one of the biggest fears most people hold. What Emily and I both share in common is this was a learned skill. It
Absolutely.
was a choice we made to get to the other side. And even if you never want to take a big stage and stand in front of an audience of 20,000 or 50,000 or many, many, many millions through a digital screen, you must be able to communicate one to one to move a client from curious to paid. And so we want to invite you today to start that journey and get off zero and say, I'll start messy, I'll start sloppy. But if I really want to amplify my message, I have to boldly create my old economy. Emily, how do people find you and connect with you?
People can, well, I'm on social media. I'm pretty active on social media. My website is dremilyletran.com. It's just like what you have on the screen there without the little dot, right? dremilyletran.com. They can go on there. They can look at some courses, some books, watch my TEDx talk, which was the third time that I spoke in public. The opportunity came, I just took it. Um,
that.
I haven't watched it for a while.
Now I want to go watch it.
I got better. I can tell you I got better now. But again, but it's still the same me. You know, I think so there's certain words that I use that it because it's me. 10 years later, I'm using the same word. I tell people when I came to the US, my luggage were hope and faith. And it resonates everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's in writing or on stage, or now we're planning to do a documentary about a Vietnamese aspect. It's me. So you know, own your thing, right? Own what is yours, your message, and just keep sharing that message because people do hear it. And the majority of the people, they don't even tell you that they've been listening to you or they've been watching you. And but if your mission is to touch lives and change lives, and having clients is kind of a byproduct of that, then go out there and change lives. I think you should follow your calling.
I love that. Guys, go follow your calling, be an ass kicker, create your own economy, and go connect to Dr. Emily Tran. Thank you for being our guest today. You are an amazing individual, and I'm grateful to have you in my inner circle. Guys,
Thank you so much.
you're very welcome. We'll see you on our next episode. That's a wrap on another amazing episode of Amplify Your Marketing Message with me, your host, Christine Campbell-Rappin. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss another great episode. And be sure to visit christinecampbellrappin.com/podcast to get a free resource on how to master your marketing message. We'll see you all on our next episode.